dance routine. Um, some of the other photos include I was participated in I'm sorry, National Night Out, where we actually took fingerprints for with children. If any of the day ever go missing, or so we have parents can keep records of their fingerprints. It also included more dancing because there was a DJ. We also danced with the children at the time. It was a really good time, and part of it is just humanizing the badge. Um, it's been a very rewarding position thus far since I've been here. I've met a lot of great students. Staff members love when I'm on campus because if you are aware, there's been a lot of fights that have been occurring, and I've been advised that from staff that when I am present and able to hang out on campus, it helps because there's a police presence and kids tend to see that and respect that. And then I will continue with how we select our SROs from the pool of Burbank police officers. It's a pretty stringent process that we go through. We try to pick people who are very uniquely suited for this position. We do require that they have at least 2 years experience as a Burbank police officer. They need to submit a memorandum which outlines their experience and qualifications uniquely suited to the position. We review their performance evaluations, and they submit to an interview. And that's the process that we use to select SRO candidates. The schools in Burbank, I'm sure you're all aware that we have 22 schools within the Burbank Unified School District. That also includes approximately 1,500 students just in the district. And then we also have 7 private schools that range from kindergarten through grade 12. There are also numerous other schools, including preschools and other unique religious schools within the city, which I've not included in these numbers. We respond out to any school that requests our assistance. And there are several after-school programs which students within the district attend after school, and we also service those students. And I'll turn it back over to Kiyomi for her daily activities. Thank you. So some of my daily activities, as you see here, the activity varies depending on the most urgent need. SCAR investigations have been, we've been very busy, hence the temporary officer that we have assisting with those. Those investigations tend to be very tedious. Any person that is listed in the SCAR report, we have to speak to, which we would include siblings, other adults in the house. We also, any perpetrators that are listed in the report, we speak with them. And ultimately, because they're very time consuming, we document our SCAR investigations on a report. So if you imagine 250 to 300 per year, that's how many reports we're writing regarding SCAR reports. There's various juvenile investigations, which include batteries, sexual assaults, threat assessments, or even just simple advisals. I'll go out and speak with students, and if we have a crime or don't have a crime, we usually just advise them and document them. I also assist detectives, and I assist patrol with their investigations if I'm needed. Sometimes if there's times when I'm unavailable to respond to a school, I'll try and use my resources to help out patrol to give them the information that they need to conduct their investigation. We attend various events, which consist of the high school games between Burbank and Borough. As you can imagine, very high tensions can happen during those. We attend the graduations, etc. The Mindfulness for Young Drivers is a program where at the last school year, in the beginning, when Detective Dustin Rodriguez and I put on these programs, and we spoke to about, I'd say, 300 plus students. With it also consisted of 40 to 50 classes, consisting of ninth graders. Their awareness in driving. We also expressed the dangers of speed racing and of speed and racing vehicles in this program. It consists of three. It consists of 3 sessions at a time within a span of 3 weeks. So, and that consists of about 6 periods per presentation. As I mentioned earlier, the anti-vaping program is also a program where we teach monthly. Usually those consist of kids who were caught with vapes, or parents who found out their students are, smoking marijuana, and they'll volunteer their children to attend these vape courses. And I'll hand over the.
So a lot of the things that we do in our bureau are to educate and to rehabilitate. You may have heard that she teaches a lot of classes, the vaping, the driving awareness, and you'll see here with our statistics that our main prerogative is not to go out and arrest kids. That's not our calling. By definition, as defined by the Department of Justice, the basic philosophy of juvenile law is to protect juveniles from abuse or neglect, to prevent delinquency, and to rehabilitate them when possible. And that's how we see ourselves as a peg in the cog. So we'll go here to the SRO statistics. So going back to the school year of 2021 to 2022, so that's from the start of the school year in August 2021 to May of 2022, we arrested 3 students. We did not cite any students, and we counseled or advised 123 students. Now, I do want to clarify for the purposes of our presentation, when I use the word counsel, I do not mean to say that we are counselors and we're not certified counselors. We don't offer that type of counseling. We offer more, by definition, counseling advice to these kids, to how to get back on the right path where they may have gone wrong, and how they can avoid any further problems in the future. That's the purpose of our word when we say counseled. For the next school year, 2022 to current date 2023, so we have about a month and a half left in the school year. So up to this point in the school year, we've arrested 3 students, we've issued 1 citation, and we've counseled or advised 120 students so far this year. When we say that we've counseled or advised, that means that there was no crime determined, and it was simply an interaction with law enforcement where further action by us was diverted. So to break that down a little bit further, the arrests in 2021 and 2022, 2 of those arrests were for criminal threats. 1 of them was for sexual assault. For the current school year, the arrests break down to 1 being an assault with a deadly weapon, 1 bomb threat, and 1 possession of narcotics. And then for community outreach, as Kiyomi touched on, we're pretty heavy into the community outreach and community involvement because that's where we see that we can have an impact with these kids. And we do participate in many outreach programs. Many of these are hosted by Burbank Unified School District, and we just take part in them, including the substance abuse, the mental health programs, and the school safety programs. We participate in National Night Out, the Family Fun Day, and also the Police and Fire Service Day, which is coming up soon if anyone wants to come. And also Shop with a Cop, which is a big program during the month of December to youth which are needy, and this is a big program. If anyone's not familiar, it's on our website, and it's a very great program. Going a little bit more into the threat assessment training, this was developed in 2020 for our department here as a standardized reporting procedure for concerning or threatening behavior related to our schools. We saw a huge disparity in how these were being reported or not being reported, and we saw the obvious concerns that entailed. So our department developed this standardized procedure in collaboration with our SRO, the Burbank Unified School District, and our mental health evaluation team. We created a SAFE team to monitor these high-risk cases and ensure that proper ongoing resources were provided to them, which includes counseling, mental health, and family resources. We meet about once a month to review these cases and make sure that these kids are receiving the proper help that they need to make sure that they can be reintegrated into the school as often as we can. We've been very successful in that. In 2022, the SROs provided training to all BUSD employees. That includes administration, teachers, custodians, clerical staff, regarding identifying threats and the proper reporting protocol. And that was about 30 classes that they taught to the staff. Since June of last year, we have investigated over 50 threats originating from Burbank schools. And as you can imagine, these are very involved investigations. We treat every one of them the same. We have to go through the same steps to determine whether or not it's a legitimate threat, and if so, we take appropriate action. We've had threats ranging from very innocuous comments on the playground, where maybe a kid's angry and says, "You took my ball, I'm gonna kill you," to very legitimate threats where kids have kill lists and plans. So we've investigated the whole gamut, and we've had quite a few that we've investigated. These are just some of our partners that you'll see up here on the board. I'm not going to read them all off, but we have numerous partners. And we also have partners within the city and within the district that we utilize.
So that ends our formal presentation that we have prepared for you, but if anyone has any questions, we're more than happy to answer any questions the commission might have.
Thank you. I'm anticipating that there may be a few, so let's go. We'll work our way around. Roman, do you want to start?
Sure. So thank you so much for that presentation. I mean, it was wonderful. And last year, I had the opportunity to meet with Officer Roberts and also Detective Rodriguez and the rest of the SRO program, and it was really eye-opening for me and helping agendize this to really understand the program in a much more in-depth fashion. And I really appreciate all the work that you do. I remember one time driving my daughter to school, and I asked her if she knew one of the SROs, and she said she knew Dustin, and what a great relationship that he builds with the children. So I really appreciate you for doing that. But my question is in regards to the child abuse cases, I believe you guys mentioned anywhere from 250 to 300. How does that get funneled to you? Is that like the children approach you, or is that funneled to the schools, or is that both, or how does that work? Yes, all of the above. We get calls from family, we get calls from school staff, teachers, coaches. We get calls from parents of other kids. We get calls from parents of the mother or the father calling about the other parent. We get the actual abuse reports that come in, which could come from any of those sources. So no matter where it comes from or who's reporting it, we will receive it and we will then investigate it.
Other questions? Paul, go ahead.
First of all, thank you. It was your presentation at the community cutting that we have put this on the agenda. I was very impressed. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was, what is the current relationship with the Burbank School Board? At the time and during the presentation, it said that in 2021 there was a decision about reducing or not cooperating with the SROs, has that been improved?
I can't really speak to a direct relationship with the school board itself. What I can tell you is that our relationship with the school staff, from the principal to the vice principal to the teachers to the counselors to the coaches to everyone on campus, could not be better. We have direct interaction with those folks who are boots on the ground, if you will, on literally a daily basis. Direct communication with Kiyomi, her cell phone. Anytime I'm talking to her, there's a text message or a phone call coming from one of the above on any given day at any given time. The same thing with our detectives and with Sergeant Lawfer. Principals are continually calling Sergeant Lawfer with questions, concerns, advice on how to handle situations, best case scenarios. So the communication there and the relationship there is fantastic.
I was actually very comforted during the presentation when Dustin said that when we called, we're there, whether allowed or not. Second, on the child abuse cases, when it's reported and you find out that either the child lives or the abuse took place outside of Burbank, does Burbank follow up with that? Or because in some of the situations I've become aware of, that they've been brought over to LAPD and frankly the ball gets dropped. But if it goes through, if it's channeled through Burbank, do you follow up on that?
The general rule of thumb is that the agency in which where the crime occurs geographically will investigate the crime. So if a crime took place within the Glendale Police Department's jurisdiction in Glendale Police Department would investigate that crime. And that goes for all crime, not just child abuse cases. That would be, if it was a theft, a battery, a robbery, whatever the case may be, the general rule of thumb is going to be the investigating agency with the lead or handle is going to be the police department where the crime took place.
Thank you for your very tactful answers.
Well, we'll just keep working our way around if that's okay. I think Lieutenant Lasacco, Sergeant Lawfer, Officer Roberts, and Detective Rodriguez, who's not here, I want to thank you all for the work that you're doing. Your team, does that comprise with additional assistance as needed from the department, does your team comprise the sum total of the resources assigned to working with the 22 plus schools in Burbank?
Yes, you have that correct.
So because I know that we have, technically there's one SRO right now, and then we have it's Detective Rodriguez, who also assists, and you were talking about, I think it was 200 abuse, 350 child abuse reports annually that get investigated on top of all of this. The question I've got is one school resource officer enough for what you're covering?
It's very difficult to properly investigate all the crimes that we're talking about with the resources we have, but that's a challenge across the organization and across the profession, quite frankly. The staffing concerns are not stopping, they're not ending, they're not going away tomorrow. So we pool our resources, and if the individuals that I have in the Juvenile Bureau, Family Crimes Unit can't handle a certain case or don't have the resources to handle it because they're dealing with something else that's also important, we will farm that out to other investigators in the division that either have prior experience dealing with these cases, because people rotate, from this. So I have other investigators that have child abuse or SCAR experience. Maybe we're an SRO or we're a detective, and they can absolutely take that ball and run with it. So that's how we triage the cases if need be. I move them across the floor on a go forward basis anytime that's required. But for the most part, the SCARs are investigated by their unit, and those are the folks that are doing it. And it's stellar work. I mean, it's constant, it's nonstop. It's from 7 in the morning till at least 5 in the afternoon. If not, Kiyomi was working one up until we walked across the street this evening. So it's constant.
And it's a drain. It's intensive doing that work. A long time ago in my career, I actually started out working in Child Protective Services, so I'm familiar with that. I've always kind of referred to it just as a suspected child abuse report because the name SCAR for that always just kind of bothered me. It didn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's neither here nor there. I wanted to ask if you could describe a little bit more about the nature of the working relationship with the Department of Children and Family Services around doing a suspected child abuse report investigation. Specifically, there's a lot of questions that get asked by law enforcement that may also be asked by Child Protective Services, and I know it's important to protect the victim, the child in this situation, and any other family members that may be victims. But I'm curious about how the collaboration works so we don't end up re-traumatizing with the same questions being asked multiple times. How does that work?
I understand your question, and that is a question that we commonly have answered. By nature, both departments have to do an independent investigation. So just because Department of Children and Family Services has gone out and interviewed a child and determined that no crime occurred, doesn't mean that we can say, oh, we don't need to go out on that one. We still have to go and conduct our own investigation. Each department has different resources that we can tap into, which give us a little bit bigger picture of the story going on behind the curtains. So whereas we might have access to criminal records checks and maybe someone's arrest history, DCFS, Department of Children and Family Services, may have a bigger snapshot of prior child abuse reports or prior history within their department. And we have a very good working relationship with Department of Children and Family Services, but we still have to conduct our investigations independently. And that's to catch those cases that may otherwise slip through the cracks, like the ones that we've seen in the news lately. We do not want that to occur here. So as much as we can, of course, we want to protect the children in this and any victims, and we want to try to not traumatize them. If there is a case where perhaps there is a case where Department of Children's Family Services and the police department, we've talked about the case, we haven't gone out on it yet, and we've determined, you know what, we're going to need to conduct what's called a forensic interview. We're going to do one of those with a certified forensic interview person, and we're both going to be there at that time to observe the interview so that we don't need to independently interview this child 3 times. So when the case allows for it, of course, we try to make arrangements so that child is not re-traumatized. But there are cases where that just isn't viable, and for the sake of not missing those cases that might otherwise slip through the cracks, we do interview that child again if necessary, or investigate it another way if necessary, just to make sure that that child doesn't fall through the cracks. And the ultimate concern is that child's safety.
Thank you. I do have one more question, and Sergeant Loftus, you're probably the one to answer this one as well. I think you used the term rehabilitate
Yes.
earlier in the work that you do, and it just got me thinking a lot about what is the role of law enforcement in these relationships. I fully support community policing. I fully support establishment of relationships with community members. I think it's a positive thing that you're doing. But I see too often that the concept of law enforcement being responsible for rehabilitation can often become problematic because it in some cases it lets other people off the hook that should really be responsible for establishing those meaningful relationships in the community, those nurturing relationships in the community. It also taxes the resources that you have available as well. I think the word that Officer Roberts was looking for was mentoring, that you're doing a lot of mentoring of students and everything. And I was wondering if I could get your candid opinion on what is the role and responsibility of the Burbank Police Department, or any police department for that matter, in rehabilitation, because there's supposed to be a whole rest of the social service system behind, around, and supporting the work that you're doing and the work that the community is involved in. I just want to see if I can get your take on that.
You're absolutely correct, and our role is just one part of the process in the juvenile justice system. Along with that, we have the probation department, and they're really the department, along with Department of Mental Health, which is that rehabilitation side of the coin. We are more of the interaction with the kids. Frankly, a lot of what we do may not be on paper rehabilitation, but a lot of what we do is the relationship part of that. Officer Rodriguez was our prior SRO. Officer Kiyomi Roberts is our new SRO, and Detective Rodriguez now has a detective position, and he is one of the detectives listed in my unit now. So he has stories of where he has had interactions with kids that maybe didn't start out on a good basis, where he was contacting them because maybe they did something at school, maybe they got in a fight, maybe they were caught doing something they shouldn't be doing. And he contacts these kids, and then when he's at school, at lunch, a couple weeks later, the kid will come up to him and, give him a fist bump and, hey, Officer Rodriguez, how's it going? I can't tell you how many times we've gone out to lunch or we go to do a follow-up and he runs into a prior student and they're happy to see him and that relationship is there. And they'll talk about how much, that relationship helped them get through a tough time, whether they may have been on the side where we were talking to them because they were doing something they shouldn't be doing, or because they were a victim in something and they saw him as a positive light in that. So when we talk about our part in the rehabilitation process, I agree with you. I think that there are many entities that need to step in and do their part. And I think it's safe for me to say that anyone working in this field, especially in my department, does it because we love it. We don't clock in for the hours that we're getting text messages at 9, 10 o'clock at night, the times that we come in early and we're checking reports or getting back to principals. It's an inner drive that we do because we innately want to protect these kids and want good for them. So I think anyone that is in my position is going to try to step into the gap where we see that others are not. So in the areas that we can maybe fill in a little bit, even though it isn't our specific duty, we're going to do that. We're not going to overstep into the realm of probation or citation diversion or things like that. We're not going to step into those other realms, but where we can maybe fill a void for a kid, we're going to do that.
Appreciate that. Real quick question, is there a term limit or a limited amount of time that a school resource officer can be a school resource officer within the department?
I'm going to refer that to Lieutenant Lasacco so I don't give you the wrong answer. I don't remember how long I was a school resource officer.
Typically, the assignment's going to be for 3 years, and usually what happens is that school resource officer will promote out of that. They've gained significant knowledge and experience that for the most part, if they choose to take an exam to promote to detective, usually they're going to do very well on that exam and they have a leg up on competition. So after about 3 years, sometimes a little less, they're usually going to promote to that position. And that's a really good thing for us because, like I mentioned earlier, once they move on to that other position, they don't forget and lose their skill set. Those people those officers that have been SROs continue to share that wealth of information that they gained and utilize it.
Thank you. So Officer Roberts, we look forward to you becoming Detective Roberts at some point. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and keep on rotating around. Anybody have questions?
Yeah, I just thank you for coming and your time and sharing your experience here tonight. Just had a question around the SAFE team that kind of supports and supervises the high risk cases. So just wondering, just generally, like, are all of those students still attending school, or what's going on at that time?
So the decision for the student to either continue in school or whatever discipline they receive at school is solely within the confines of the school district. They're the sole arbiter of that. We have no real say or horse in that race. We will investigate the threat, deal with the threat, take the appropriate action depending on what happened. But ultimately, if that student gets to stay in school, gets suspended, goes to a different school, or gets expelled, that's solely on the school district.
Okay, thank you. And then just again, kind of speaking to the staffing and workload question. So, at any given time on average, would you say, how many cases are being, monitored at a time? And I know it's a partnership, so it's not just all one.
My investigators in the unit are probably carrying actively anywhere between 30 and 50 cases a month. Those are not the ones that are closed out, but at the end of the month, they're probably 30 to 50 cases. So we're talking in the neighborhood of 90 to 150 cases that we carry month to month that are continually being investigated, not counting the ones that are closed out. Sometimes the cases are closed out same week, same day, depending on what it is. Some take months or even upwards of a year to be closed out.
That was another question, so you've already answered that. Thank you. And then the last thing is, so are there, statistics on kind of the outcomes of those cases, like you mentioned? So some of them may be closed within a day or two because it's, determined that maybe there's not really a big issue going on, or for ones where there is more of a need, for intensive support and intervention, and kind of what those outcomes are for those cases. And I understand it may be a privacy issue for that, since it's a small number of people we're talking about, but.
So I'm not sure I quite understand what you're asking.
I just, so in terms of the youth that actually go through maybe a longer process, whether that be weeks, months, or a year, as you mentioned, are there, I guess, statistics or, you know, outcomes that you could share in terms of if there are, you know, 100 youth, you know, kind of supported through this type of program over the year, and in the end, you know, what's the resolution? But yeah.
I'll try to answer that to the best of my ability. I am limited. Number one, because we're speaking about juveniles, and number two, because some of these are ongoing cases. So what I can tell you is that just since June of last year, we've investigated approximately 50 school threats. We have approximately that same number of students that we have discussed, and we've discussed options for them and interventions for them. I can tell you, I can't give you an exact number, but what I can tell you is that it's in the high 90s of kids that we've been able to say they're doing great. They've received the services, their family has received services, not just from our department, but some of them come from the LA County Department of Mental Health, which works in collaboration with our mental health evaluation team. They also receive services through the district. And so these kids are getting a fully encompassing program, which really helps them and is a focused program to assist them into reintegrating them back into the normal school culture. And we've been very successful in doing that.
Mike Chapman?
Good evening, and thank you too again for coming this evening. From the information that you gave just about the SCARS related issues, it does definitely seem to me that there is understaffing there. I do have a couple of questions. So one area is on campuses, is there a separate security force besides our police department? Does the school have a security guard?
No. What the school have is pretty much supervisors, which can range from volunteers to people that have applied for the position, but there is no extra security on the campuses.
So it would be related to teachers, administrators, and volunteers, couldn't we have that? Two areas that I didn't hear too much about. Do you interface with any hate-related issues, hate incidences, for example, that are maybe not a crime, but kind of on the edge?
We have, I've had to investigate several of them, but the amount of hate crimes or incidents that I've investigated are very low on the scale. But I've had more, I'd say more investigations with hate speech, but not actual hate crimes.
And that would cover both sexual levels, nationality, race, heritage.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. How about gangs?
We have our own separate gang unit for that. I have not had any interactions in regards to gang activity on campus whatsoever.
So that would be, we have a separate department that would be involved, and they would just be referred over to them then?
Yes, sir. But we work together. If there's an incident where they're investigating any gang-related activity involving a juvenile, then they'll come to me to try and look up information as far as what school they attend and personal information and stuff like that. So we still work together within the department.
We were discussing in the past, were there ever a higher number of SROs?
Yes.
And what was the maximum? Did they were up to 5 or down up to 3?
So when I started in 2011, I believe there were about 5 SROs at the time when I joined the department. But there have not been any set numbers that I know of.
It ebbs and flows, as you probably are well aware. In my career, there's been a high of 7 SROs at any given time, and now we're at, as you know, 1, and everything in between.
It seemed there was a study done about a year ago, I believe, and it seemed that the response from both the teachers, administration, and parents were very favorable to SROs. I'm just wondering if we're a little shy on the number that we have.
Well, from my perspective, we absolutely could use more SROs, not only to investigate and deal with all the situations that we've been discussing tonight, but to have the boots on the ground, to have the SROs in the school. I went through the Burbank school system, and I remember every single SRO I had at every single school I went to in Burbank Unified, and the relationships I had, I still have with those folks, as do many of my peers and colleagues and friends that are not in law enforcement. So the importance of SROs, in my opinion, is not overstated. It's not a job that I ever wanted to do or would have done, but that doesn't mean it's, I mean, I'm telling you, it is one of the most important jobs in the police department. As far as getting more SROs, the organization, the police department would be itching to add more SROs. The 2 issues that we need to deal with, quite frankly, are staffing. Do we have the individuals available to fill those positions? And then number 2, just as importantly as the staffing, is the funding. Who's going to pay for those positions? Because it's not free. Staffing 7 SRO positions is extremely expensive, and it's a good chunk of the budget. So there needs to be a discussion as to do we have the staffing to fill those spots, and then who is going to pay for that? Is the city going to take on the bill for that, or is Burbank Unified going to foot some of that cost?
Right now, it's all city, is that correct?
That's correct, sir. The city is funding the SRO program. And, full disclosure, having the SROs is a benefit to the police department because, in my opinion, we stave off a significant number of cases that we otherwise would have to investigate if she wasn't on campus. If she wasn't at Burbank, at Burroughs, at Luther Burbank, dealing with the cases and being involved with the students, we would have more cases to investigate, no doubt about it. And but conversely, if we had more SROs, if we had an SRO in every middle school and every high school like we used to, our caseload would go down, no doubt about it.
And perhaps the effectiveness would be improved.
No doubt.
Thank you all for your service.
Thank you.
Mike Chapman, do you have any comments? I'm sorry, Mike Elman, I apologize for that. The other Mike, there's Big Mike and then there's Mike.
Good evening, and thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to ask some hard questions. We all attended the school board meeting of April 17th, and I was very troubled by it. I find it very out of the ordinary to have children coming during a school board meeting to say that they were physically or sexually assaulted on campus in one of the Burbank schools. I found that very troubling. I don't understand it. I need help to understand that. I've looked at your presentation with numbers and the charts. Somehow, is it falling through the cracks? Is it stuff that's never been reported? Is it they're not telling the truth, they're embellishing? I don't know what happened there, but I'm troubled by it.
Mr. Chair, I'm not aware of whatever it is that Commissioner Alman is referring to as if we watched that report. I just want to make sure that whatever the conversation was at that meeting, it is related to the topic that we have on our agenda. And so if you could bring it around so that the record can clearly show that it is related to our agenda item.
The meeting that I attended, past and present students of the Burbank School District, during public comment, came before the Board of Education and stated that they were physically or sexually or both assaulted while they were on campus. You were there, am I phrasing it correctly? Maybe you can help me.
I was there, Mr. Elman. What I will tell you is I can't get into any specifics about any of the individuals that presented about things that may have happened to them or others. What I will tell you is that every single allegation that's brought to our attention of that nature is investigated, not only investigated, but investigated to its fullest. Every single case that we know about, we will investigate it and we will take the appropriate action. Sometimes when you have somebody speaking and only one side of a allegation is being spoken, you are only getting one side. We, as the police department, must get all sides. And sometimes that involves multiple interviews. It involves a significant amount of evidence. And we uncover all of it on all of those cases, especially when we're talking about the cases that you're referring to. So our job is to investigate and gather all the evidence that is appropriate for that case, and then present it to another body. We present it to either the city attorney's office in misdemeanor cases or the district attorney's office in felony cases, and sometimes both, depending on what the allegations are. And then it is their job to adjudicate that case by either filing charges or not filing charges. If they choose not to file charges, all they're saying is that, listen, we've looked at the evidence that you have brought forward, and at this point in time, there is not enough evidence to substantiate us filing charges because we cannot prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Or they file charges. Now, that's not to say or minimize that the individual that is claiming that something untoward happened to them did not happen. All it is saying is that the prosecuting agency, the city attorney's office or the district attorney's office, has concluded after reviewing all the evidence, and I tell you, they review it very carefully, and they oftentimes send it back to us and have questions. All they're saying is that they just cannot prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the standard that we operate under in this country. And to say that it's fair to the victims all the time, that would not necessarily be the case. But I was at that meeting. I listened to everybody that spoke. And I assure you, on every single case that we were aware of or are aware of, we investigated them to the fullest. Any allegation to the contrary is not factual.
Okay. One more question. At the meeting, I heard members of the Board of Education state that it is their belief that the presence of police on campus traumatizes children. Do you traumatize children?
I'm not going to speak to any board members' feelings or characterization. I will tell you that we do not strive to do that, as you clearly know, I'm sure. And from a personal perspective, absolutely not. That is not our intent. That is not our goal. I can tell you that 99% of our interactions, even the negative interactions, do turn positive when we're dealing with students at the schools. Now, is it going to be positive every single time? Absolutely not. Are parents going to be unhappy that their child was spoken to by the police? Oftentimes, not so. But to say that we traumatize children or purposely do that, I can tell you from my perspective that that's absolutely not the case.
Okay. I can remember the time when we did have 7 SRO officers. And I think we are living in a lot more troubled times today than we did at the time when we had the 7 officers. So I believe there's a great need for the expansion of the SRO program in the schools. And I think we can't have it both ways, that we don't want police on campus to get active shooters. We want you guys to rush in and risk your lives. There's got to be a middle ground. Anyways, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for what you do.
Paul, go ahead.
Just for the sake of the minutes, I believe you were speaking about a meeting on March 17th, not April 17th. Thank you.
Yeah. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, Friday night.
So for the agenda, we do have it open for discussion and recommendations, and I actually do have a recommendation I'd like to make. I'd like us to discuss it as a commission first. One of the things that we're aware of, Mike, you did a great job kind of bringing up and naming some of the disagreement in terms of what coverage should look like by the Burbank Police Department on the campuses of the Burbank schools. And so there's kind of a wrestling match that goes on a little bit between the school district and between the city and the police department. We're aware of it. We've heard about it in numerous meetings. We've read about it as well. One of the things I'd like to do is the nice thing about having a police commission is that we function. We're not the police department. We're a third party. We do represent the community, and we may be able to serve a role in helping. Not necessarily fix things, but be able to open up communication with community members and be able to open up some dialogue. So I'd like to make a recommendation to the city council that we avail ourselves, if the city council would like members of the police commission to be engaged in any of the dialogue between the city and the police and the city and the school district, or between the Burbank Police Department and the school district, to be able to continue to facilitate this conversation. I just wanted to offer that up as a recommendation, which I guess technically is a motion.
I sat next to a former city council member during this training, and one of the things that he mentioned was that they, at one point in time, the city council had offered to split the expense with the Burbank Unified School District Board of Education, and I'll be polite, just say they were shot down. So the Burbank Police Department and the city council has reached out and done their best to try and mitigate the funding and do what's best for our children. But that's not what the cooperation problem is.
Mike?
I think if we're gonna make a recommendation to the council, I think we should make a firm recommendation that we support the enlarging of the SRO program. And we believe that the group should be enlarged because it is of benefit to the community and to the schools. And we keep on talking about safety, but if you don't have the people there to provide the safety, it's not safe. And so I think we gotta be more direct and say we're in support of the program that exists today with it being enlarged.
So
instead of just saying we wanna promote conversation between the two entities, we have to take a stronger position.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take that on first. I'd like to go ahead and turn that into a form of a motion for us to decide on, that we're making the recommendation to the city council that the number of SRO officers available to the schools within the city of Burbank be increased. Is that okay? So all in favor of that? Any opposition? Abstentions? Do you want to share? So we've got majority, but do you want to share what your thoughts are, Leila?
Yeah, I just share that I think this is a complicated issue because it is equally true that for some families and some kids, increasing the number of SROs would increase their feeling of safety, and I think it's equally true for some other families and other students that it would have the opposite effect. And that would be, regardless of, the individuals here tonight who, as I can see, have their hearts in this job. So I think it's a little bit complicated, and I think just the, nature of some of these cases, like and looking at the SAFE team, right, it's a collaboration between multiple parties who can bring different things to the table, and I'm just wondering if some of these issues, as you mentioned, these days I have kids in school, and I hear my kids gonna be going to middle school at some point, and I hear things from other parents whose kids are already there. I'm like, oh my god, I'm not ready for that. And I just don't know if this is the best way to direct the resources to address those issues.
Appreciate that. So go ahead.
At the risk of getting overly personal, my father was a police officer for 36 years, 16 of those were narcotics. At his funeral, there were probably just as many police officers there as people he'd arrested. And I made jokes because I was trying to lighten the mood and said, are you here to make sure that he's really gone? And everyone said, no, he saved my life. And I think that that's the role of the SROs, and that's what you're describing. And that's important.
Roman?
And just a comment, I got a chance to talk to a handful of principals all throughout the community in regards to this program, and I didn't face any opposition from any of them, actually. A lot of them were in support for it, because it said, I was speaking in that chamber that John Burroughs, and he said that we can't survive without the police department here. and it just shows that integral relationships between the school and the PD, and that's why, you know, meeting with, you know, the officer last year really kind of opened my eyes, like, you know, it kind of opened my eyes to, you know, what, how vital a program like this and color provides, you know, for police department. So, just want to comment on that.
Yeah, actually, I see what our council is suggesting. That we motioned, we actually did motion and second, and we voted already as well.
Yes.
It was the second, it was the second.
It was, so technically, Mike was making the recommendation, and I was phrasing it in the form of a motion, and then Mike said yes. So I was taking Mike saying yes as seconding. So we can, do we want to clarify that further? We can vote again if you'd like us to.
I just want to share it.
That's what I was gonna ask, who made the second, because I know there was.
Right, I think it was Mike Ellman.
Mike Gilman, you're second.
Would that work, or would you like to make the motion and I second?
I think we've got it.
I think we do too, and the important piece is that we move this forward, so we've got that, so we're already making the formal recommendation to the city council about increasing the number of SRO officers. I'd like to open it up to a second motion right now as well, and this goes later to what you were just recommending as well, and this comes back to, I'd like to recommend that we recommend to the city council that commissioners avail ourselves as however the city council would like, an ad hoc committee, individual members, however they would like, that we avail ourselves to being available to be engaged in a dialogue between either the city council and the Burbank Unified School District, or the Burbank Police Department and the Burbank Unified School District, to continue to explore the issues, Layla, that you were specifically identifying about the relationship and the impact of having officers on campus, and identifying the barriers associated with having officers on campus from a student and a parent perspective. So I'd like to make that recommendation to the city council as well. But we would need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Paul seconding. All in favor? Opposition? Abstentions? Okay. Excellent. Any other discussion, comment, dialogue? Mike?
I would like to also, contact the Board of Education to hear their side. And I think that would put us in a thank you. That would put us in a very strong position, because we will have feedback from the city council, feedback from the Board of Education, and more information to just get for us to, to move forward on this. So I think we should ask the Board of Education if they would ever be interested in maybe making a presentation to us.
Okay, so I want to make sure that we're clear. The request is to either open dialogue between the police commission and the Board of Education, or to ask the Board of Education to make a presentation.
Presentation of their feelings, their attitudes for
Right.
SRO.
Public comment period has already been closed.
Gina, is that something that we have within our purview to request the Board of Education make a presentation? Usually the presentations that we request are coming from the police department or the city.
Asking if they could say no.
So, okay, so yeah, I want to, so there was I heard three recommendations. One was to open up a dialogue with them. The second was to ask for a presentation, and the third is to write a letter.
My feeling is, it's just the first one, how we contact, I don't know what looks like.
So what if I make a recommendation that's in, this is where we can use the ad hoc committees as well, to be real specific. An ad hoc committee technically can be a committee of one, if I'm correct, right? So would the recommendation maybe be to form an ad hoc committee to reach out to the Burbank Unified School District to open up dialogue?
Reach out and give them an invitation. They can just say
Okay.
no, or they can say yes, we'll be glad to come
Okay.
to the commission.
So let's clarify a little bit, and we'll use what we learned in the last couple of meetings. So I was. No, we're not using the colors anymore. So what I want to make sure that we're really clear, we're establishing an ad hoc committee of members of the commission to reach out to the Burbank Unified School District to open up a dialogue to get input from the Burbank Unified School District on the not the school district, but the school board. Was it the school board or the school district? The school board. Okay, so specifically reaching out to the Burbank Unified School Board to get their input and open up dialogue on the role of school resource officers on campus. Did I get that right? Okay, so that's,
Maybe not on campus.
I will second that.
well, before we go there, Gina, go ahead.
So, at the risk of being really nitty-gritty about the Brown Act.
Yeah.
My recommendation to you is not to create an ad hoc committee and vote on it, because that is actually not on our agenda.
Okay.
It's, presentation, discussion, action regarding SRO.
Yes.
If this is something that the commission wants to do, reach out to BUSD regarding SROs in particular, because that's our agenda item. I'd recommend that you don't make an ad hoc committee, perhaps, Mr. Chair, you just take on that role. And we're not gonna call it an ad hoc committee, it's gonna be your action as the chair. That way, we're staying within our agendized item without getting into whether or not, we're taking action beyond it by creating an ad hoc
Right.
committee.
Okay.
It does the same thing without having to make unnecessary
Okay.
issues.
So it sounds like Gina put that on me, Mike. Is that okay with you?
Well,
Or it could be Mr. Element, it doesn't matter
Les.
who, but it's not an ad hoc committee. It's, taking action
Right.
as a commission to
Can I speak with you?
anoint someone to go and reach out, but I also caution, it needs to be, you didn't phrase it this way, I want to make sure you understand specific to the SRO program.
Right. This is all about having school resource officers on campus. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Thank our officers.
So you can only make public comment right at the start of the meeting?
Apparently, so every board and commission handles it a little differently. So the city council, you can actually make a public comment after each report to council or agenda item, but for these boards and commissions,
I just have concerns about children being investigated by police
gotcha.
at school under the age of 18 of legal consent to be being questioned by police.
Gotcha.
Was one of the questions I had.
Behave yourself.
Okay. And how many people have had issues with being wrongfully prosecuted or wrongfully charged with a crime? Because I've had this department come after me and do search warrants, take my phones, take stuff from me, search all my property, search my vehicle, leave it unlocked while they put me in jail for an expired permit on a baton I had when I did guard work. And because they keep messing with me, I can't redo my permits, and they charged me a felony for that. The DA wouldn't take on the charge. The city attorney did. City attorney, they sent a letter in the mail and a warrant for somebody else taking a snap of one of my videos of a Lieutenant Brimley here and threatening the lieutenant online, a Mr. George Tishi, and put it on Facebook. I don't even use Facebook. I haven't for like 5 years.
Okay.
And this guy put a profile of the lieutenant on there, did his house, did his phone number, did all this, did a snap from one of my videos and a link to my video on YouTube. I started filming these guys recently because they're doing all this stuff now coming after me. No paper citation, no nothing. Just here's a warrant for your arrest.
Gosh.
And then I show up to court and they want to keep me in jail. They don't want to let me have my bond back from the city attorney. And a bunch of these people work in the city attorney. And it's pretty scary to have your rights taken away from you, locked up in jail. You get out, your car is completely unlocked.
Oh my gosh.
You have hunting stuff in there. There's kids all around here. These guys have come after me, and I've had numerous violations. I've had like 6 of my rights violated, my constitutional rights by these guys. I have documented proof from the chief showing that they violated my First Amendment, and the police department told me I couldn't film while they're filming me with their body cam. These guys do a lot of two-sided stuff and need to be kept in check.
That's why you wanted to be here tonight.
Yes, to document it. I'm putting this on YouTube. I'm putting all the stuff I have on YouTube. I've tried to contact Justin Hess several times, nothing. Jeannie O, I've talked to her one time and she was very rude to me, won't talk to me again, won't have an appointment with me. Then they're the ones who prosecuted me last time for the baton. For a baton, which can also be used as a window emergency thing to get out of your car. These people come up with whatever laws they want, and there's so many on the books, they've come after me. Like the thing, they said I was making threats, disorderly conduct, and making threats towards an officer by filming them when I came back to get my property after I was falsely arrested. And they kept my, I had a Byrna, which is less than lethal. I think do you know what those are?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
They took that from me. They solicited a trespass. They didn't win their case, never charged me for that, kept it for a year, went back to get it. with a commissioner's note for return of property. And they tried to deny me that and say I've talked to a detective and all this. And I'm like, give me my property back. It's from the commissioner. You guys, you're done. You no longer need it. You're trying to put charges on me. You're done. You guys need to give me my property back. They were very rude. And I even told the lieutenant in that video, I have no problem with you. I think you're a good cop. He's later pressing charges on me. They're taking my phones at court with a search warrant. Judges signing off on it, saying they don't want to give me my bond. When they're letting people out that have a brand new charge of what? Assault with a deadly weapon. Some young kid in there, and he has 2 misdemeanor warrants and has a hit and run probation. They're just going to let him go talk to the city attorney or the public defender and leave. Me? They want me to send me to jail for what? Someone taking a snapshot from one of my videos?
What I would recommend.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
That's an abuse of power. They've come after me sometimes, threatened me. A detective Voorhees who investigated this laughed at me in court, threatened me several times. I've had several officers there threaten me the first time they jailed. They beat me up in the drunk tank, smash my face in the floor, take my necklaces off, rub my face in that nasty floor. I'm spitting all over the place. I can't spit, that's a felony. I'm like, I'm trying to get this out of my mouth. I have water. They won't give me water. Wouldn't give me toilet paper. Wouldn't give me any sleeping stuff. Wouldn't give me medical after the cops kneeled on my neck and my back. After I'd recently been in a car wreck a few months before that and had neck, and that's why I wear these glasses, because I have stuff problems with my vision.
Oh, okay. Sorry
from the light sensitivity.
Yeah.
And I've been threatened over the courthouse to be taken from the judge and cited for filming in there while I do my official business, not in the courtroom, but that's public lobby. This is public.
Right.
They've come after me several times. They've come after me in here, telling me I can't film. Sent the cops after me the first time I came here after I got my property back. Sent 3 officers here. They knew my name, knew who I was. The chief and Jenny O, if you notice them all talking in there, they're all talking about me.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yes, sir.
So if ever like you have a meeting like this where you show up and
I was late in traffic.
Right. Trust me, I get it. And I hear your point about if you have public comment and you close it at 6:05, people can't make it.
Doesn't make sense. You just hear what's going on here. I watched the taser one last time.
Right. And you want to be able to comment on it, especially in response to the staff report.
Taser can kill somebody. I get more of those.
Sadly, yes, you're right. One thing I would recommend is if you wanted to send an email, if you sent it to, I'm trying to think of who it would be. It'd be Miss Nakamura.
So, what was your name again?
Nick Schultz.
Nick Schultz. And you're?
I'm the vice mayor.
Vice mayor.
Nice to meet you, sir. What's
You
your
too.
name again?
Justin Watson.
Justin, nice to meet you.
Sir.
So you could certainly send it to me and I could forward it, but the person you want to connect with is Miss Nakamura, who you were talking with.
The secretary for the police.
Yes.
Yeah, but did you watch what they did?
Yeah,
She went over and they're like, do not let that guy talk.
So
They know what I'm going to say.
So here's what I would do. If you're able to be here right at the start of the meeting at 6, great. But what you can also do, and a lot of folks take advantage of it with counsel in a good way, is you can send an email before the meeting and you would just direct it to Ms. Nakamura. And what I would do is at the top of the email, I'd say something like in bold letters, like, please share with the entire police commission. That way, what they'll typically do is print it out, put it on the dais there for everyone to read and see, so that even if you can't, traffic, whatever comes, and you can't make it here in person, you can make sure that the information that you want to share is getting to those commissioners. Because as you heard at the beginning, Mr. Coombs, who's the chair, said, does anyone have a response to any written public comment? They could still respond to your comment. So that would be my recommendation. And there's nothing that would prevent you from going home tonight, typing up what you wanted to say, and say, just at the top in bold or caps, whatever, please share with the whole police commission. And you could write beneath that, please respond at the next police commission meeting.
Okay.
So nothing, that's what I would personally recommend. And then there you go.
It's just concerning when they've made up stuff on me. I was abused when I was younger. I had the sheriff's department take me home to my house with bruises and marks all over me telling them what happened. I had to run away from home several times to get away. So did a lot of people in my family that were seriously abused. Like a meat skewer through my brother's testicles, ribs broken, face broken, crazy stuff, okay?
Sorry.
And my stepmother was government too, BLM, Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah.
So her dad knew the sheriff right across the street from where they lived in a small southern town in Utah. And all those people work together.
Yeah.
And a lot of people work together. Look up the Oklahoma sheriff, Oklahoma sheriff, who conspired with other council members while the council meeting was over, and a reporter left a recorder in there, and they talk about killing that reporter and another reporter and burying him in a hole. Jeez. And those black people back in the day, we'd hang them from a tree, stuff like that. Those people are saying behind the scenes. Now they're trying to charge the reporters with recording, okay?
Oh my God.
because no one knew about the recording. Those people were making death threats. They're conspiring to kill people. These people have conspired against me. United States Code 241, 242, public officials conspiring against a member of the public, defaming their name, and under the color of law conspiring against me. The city attorney, all these people have, they've made up charges on me. They came to get my computer devices for the thing of the guy taking the snapshot. I didn't take that. The guy threatened the cop online on Facebook. I don't even use Facebook. They come and got my phones from court, got my keys, told me they followed me in that morning because they said, my car's a ways away. We followed you in this morning. We know exactly where you parked by the Burbank Hotel. And then Mrs. Gopin, the public defender, said, blonde-haired lady, older lady, she's really good. She said, hey, I'm going to go with you. Let me ask my boss. She asked her boss. I went before the judge. The judge was like, oh, whatever. All these judges are signing off on all this stuff. And I told them right to their face, you guys are conspiring against me. You're breaking United States Code 241, 242, conspiring against the citizen with other public officials. I'm letting you know right here. And I'm trying to get the records for that still. Then I go to my van, right? They search it, find the baton, charge me with that. Drop the other charges for the charge of me supposedly disorderly conduct and threat. You can't just loophole stuff and then come and get into my property and then find something I'm trying to get permits for that, okay, that, like I told you, the DA dropped it. Then the city attorney picked it up. Yeah. Okay, if the district attorney decided there's no charge there, why would you guys pursue charges? Because the district attorney's smart enough to look and go, you guys are fishing, what are you doing? My public defender told me, these guys are fishing. It's like the old boys club, they're messing with you.
Gosh.
That's scary. How many times have they done this to somebody else?
Yeah. And I think that for you wanting to bring that to light,
yes,
that's what I would definitely do.
I'm scared for my life. I am seriously scared for my life. I'm not joking. I've told them this. I've told other people that. And people some people laugh at me. Think it's a joke. People bully me online. Ever since I took my property, every time I post anything like, awesome, oh, that's science. Oh, the Burbank Police Department are great at doing this at least. Like I try to highlight off, just say good job. If someone doesn't do good, I put pass or I put fail. I don't try to, sometimes I'll get a little emotional and I'll get upset and I'll say some dumb stuff, but no threat. I don't say threats or anything, but I'll say something stupid. Do you know what I mean? And just kind of rude. Yeah, because I'm like, let it get under my skin. But majority of the time, these people are getting upset because they've been blasted online now. Now they're coming after me to try to get me and silence me, and they're breaking the law to do it. Okay. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm seriously scared for my life. Last time they locked me up, $20,000 bond. That's $2,000. I already paid it off. I'm done. Got my bail bonds hotline shirt on right here. Okay. And I'm seriously in fear of my life. Like my stepmom and people like that, they wanted to kill me. The sheriffs take me back home. I was checked into a psych ward when I was a kid with a bruised handprint from my stepmom on my chest.
I'm so sorry.
And they were like, whatever, dude. Now you have to go talk to her and go back home and live with her. That's what happened to me as a kid, okay? And then I see this kind of stuff and these guys doing this, and I get looked at by how I am with tattoos and all this, and my long beard, and everyone thinks I'm a white super. People say the weirdest stuff to me, you wouldn't believe it. And they come after me in the weirdest ways, and these guys have made me out to be a domestic terrorist. I've tried to get body cam footage. I've tried to go in and get my own arrest records, which are public information. Can't have it. Due to this law, I made up stuff, and the sergeant's going, I don't know what that is. And people at the desk giving me stuff with a mask on going in there, and they know exactly who I am, coming out, hi, Mr. Watson. Violating my Fourth Amendment. But all the time, every time I call in there to make a complaint, I have a separate phone to call in and make complaints. Yeah, just because of that.
So yeah, what I would definitely recommend is exactly, continue to show up at these meetings, share with the public whatever you think they need to know. If you, tonight, for example, if you couldn't, do it at the beginning of the meeting, I'd still write the email, because remember, that's all public record too.
Yes, sir.
Any email that you send to anybody,
that's correct.
It's all public record, so at least you're making a record of it. And look, if I can ever be of help, you can look me up on the website.
Okay.
I'm happy to try. But I would just, if I were you in your shoes tonight, I would definitely send an email off tonight. And the key is just make sure at the top of it, you're putting in all caps, please share with the police commission. You can ask for them to respond at the next meeting, and they can go from there.
How can I get the California Freedom of Information Act, like the backgrounds on all these people? Because they won't let me. I've gone to the police station.
Police officers are on the.
Because I think this is some shady stuff. I know people get raises and they get promoted when they get enough, or catch this person or do this thing. Like, they came after me. That's twice. Charges didn't stick. Then they find the baton and charge me with that. Come on, just to get a charge on me. Do you know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Then it makes me look like a bad person. People read the stuff, and all they get is what they see.
Yeah,
they don't see, this happened, and they decided not to.
They just read the top line,
And the city attorney here, took stuff like the burn I had and cropped out the end of the magazine to show it didn't have a plastic ball in it to make it look like it was a real gun. Stuff like that.
So for the Freedom of Information Act, if you ever have any questions about that, the best person in this building to talk to is Kimberly Clark. She is the city clerk. She's
yeah.
right down in that
Right down
office
here,
over
yeah.
there.
Talk to
She's but her and her staff are great, but they're the best.
A lot of
to talk
people here
to.
are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they're a great example. The one thing I will tell you up front, that I'm not an expert in this. I don't know all the details, but there is what do they call it in California? The Peace Officer Bill of Rights. But there are certain protections or certain categories of information.
Well, these guys should be on a Bain Act list. Did you know they were investigated in 2011, 2014 by the FBI?
Yeah, I
found to be one of the most corrupt police departments in California.
I remember reading about the
criminals
incident. Yeah,
that's pretty scary. And Sergeant Gunn that went up there after he got accused of picking on the gang members and falsely arrested him and doing all the stuff like they do, and then he got accused of federal crimes, went up to the hill and blew his head off.
Yeah.
Like, there's some crazy stuff going on, dude. It scares me.
No.
Which, dude, come on. I grew up with people that were murderers. I know my step-parents were murderers, dude. I knew they were. My stepmom and her dad.
I'm sorry for what you've
They
been
were
through.
crazy. Shot me with a gun when I was 12, made me dance in the driveway. Because I was shooting the gun before she came home. She could smell that I shot the gun without permission, so she shot at me. Because I was shooting a fence post to kill her when she came home, and I decided not to. So I got the crap kicked out of me all the time, dude. Face rearranged, nose broken, beat with my own belt buckle. We showed horses, got beat with my own buckle. She would take my horse trophies away from like crazy stuff. She was crazy.
I'm so sorry.
She would count all the food and all the cupboards and stuff. Like crazy. Yeah, one time my brother took an extra pudding snack and then said I took it. So she cornered me in the kitchen, slapped me, did the fake out thing, slapped me in the ear so hard I heard high pitched stuff. I thought water was coming out of my ear and reached up there, blood burst my eardrum. Yeah. Played drums my whole life. I had to play like this sideways. Yeah, because it's off balance when I play. It doesn't sound right.
Well, look, I'm so sorry for what you've been through, but I am glad that you came up and at least talked to me. And that would be my recommendation here. Look, you can reach out anytime. I'm happy to help. I can shepherd you to the right source, but I would tell you Mrs. Clark and her office is by far, they're amazing. They're gatekeepers.
No, I've talked to her before and I've gotten paperwork from her and she's very nice, but I've never heard anything back.
Oh, from Miss Clark?
No.
Okay.
I think once certain people see the stuff I'm filing, I think it kind of gets hidden.
I see.
Miss O does not like me.
Oh,
I've told her my intentions straight up, like I don't like what you guys are doing, and you're coming after me, and it's not right, and you're violating my rights, and I'm gonna come with a lawsuit if you guys keep doing this. And they're like, go for it, try it.
Well, look, sir, as far as I'm concerned,
I'm just telling you, that's what we're doing.
No, I
They've come after me so much. Cops have since I've moved here in 5 years in LA. Like for BS stuff, for me trying to defend myself or carrying weapons on myself. Never hurting anybody else, but people attacking me. And I get charged with stuff based on race, based on all sorts of weird woke nowadays weird stuff where they're letting people, like I told you in court, they're letting this guy walk. He's got a brand new charge of armed robbery. They're letting him walk. They're trying to put me in jail for what? Supposed someone taking pictures off of my video? What? What?
Well, look, I'll tell you, sir, as far as I'm concerned, as a member of our public, you have every right, and please keep showing up.
I just want you to know I'm scared for my life. If something happens to me, if you hear Justin Watson was murdered or shot by the police, just know I'm not trying to hurt these people.
Yeah, I'm gonna. You believe me, sir. You're gonna be in my prayers. I pray that doesn't happen, and if I can be a resource, just reach out anytime. Okay.
Okay. And then these are every Tuesday, Wednesday.
They're once a month. They are Wednesday.
It's on the website, right?
Yeah, it's
the city council meetings have been dark. Sorry to cut you off, but they've been dark lately.
They are. So the city council meets here mostly every Tuesday night. But I would say like out of every month, if there's 4 weeks, usually there's 1 week where there's no meeting, it's dark. But usually every Tuesday night we meet. The police commission meets once a month, and it's today is I think the second Wednesday of the month. So yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. And what was it again? Nick
Schultz.
Schultz. Thank you, Justin Watson. You too, man.
Okay.
You too, man. Have a great day. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you.
You too.
Have a wonderful day. Is there an email I can get from you?
I don't have any cards, but if you go to the city website, you would. I think there's like a tab that says like My Government or Elected Officials or something. If you look under there, and I would encourage you to reach out to all the members of council. We have 5 of us, so you can reach out to the mayor, Constantine Anthony, myself, and our 3 other council members. Anything that you want to share with any of us, again, just keep in mind whatever you put in email is public record. But if there's information that you want us to know, I would just put it in there. Probably the easiest way to get information to all 5 of us is to write an email to City Council, one word. So City Council at burbankca.gov. It's the same pending that
I
Miss.
recorded. I'll go back and look at it. But I just really want people to know what's going on here because
Yeah.
that's scary to me. The more I've investigated this, like I told you, found out the FBI report. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of videos of these guys. And you know what? I've made a video saying, hey, I want to work with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I want to find out who this George Deasy is who did threaten your lieutenant.
Okay.
Nothing. It's not like I'm just trying to come after these guys. I know there's good cops.
Yeah.
But for me these days, it's very few. It's like a couple good apples in a huge rotten bunch. It's scary.
And I appreciate you sharing those concerns with me, sir.
Okay. And I appreciate your time. I got to get to work. So
Yeah, of course.
I really appreciate your time. And I'm going to start coming here more often. And
You got it, sir. Reach out with anything you need, okay?
Schultz, right?
Yes, sir.
Nick Schultz. Thank you, sir. And you're the assistant mayor?
Vice mayor.
Vice
mayor.
mayor.
The number 2.
You do a great job, man. Thank you.
I really
I appreciate you. Thank you. Well, there you have it. That was Chief Albanese and Miss Geno, or whatever her name is, city attorney or assistant. What happened to your head, bud? Well, I gotta get to work. Here we go. Here's to hoping I can get a hold of somebody and something gets changed. Well, that was your police review commission live from Hell, JP Hellacious. You guys are gonna see me more often when I'm talking to Nick, and I'm gonna make sure I send him some stuff to where if something happens to me in the future, if I end up dead or something like that, from mysterious circumstances involving the police, just know that I'm going to send to Nick and other people that I contact here a lot of very valuable information and video footage of your guys' conduct. It's gotten 61,000 plus views. Some of these videos have gotten tens of thousands of views from your guys' conduct, or thousands of views. So just know, I told you I'm coming for you guys, all you corrupt officials working in public service. Just know I'm coming for you. You're coming for me, I'm coming for you. I'm not going to use the term you probably used, but anyways, hope you guys have a good day. Hanging out, I got my bail bonds shirt on, so I decided to wear it today. Gotta try to have fun with this because you never know. These people are kind of crazy. Anyways, hope you guys all have a good day. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the support on my channel. Please spread the word about this. Let it be known that some public officials and what they're doing, they're interrogating children below the age of 18 at schools. So just know that's what they're doing here. Anyways, hope you all have a good day. Hope you all learned something. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Have a good one. Later.